Regardless of your chip strategy, I'm here with 6 fantastic differentials, none of which over 12% in ownership, that are going to help you rise up the ranks in the final few game weeks. Hey everyone, Sam here, otherwise known as FPL Pricey, and today I've got 6 differentials that are hopefully going to give you a helping hand as you try and catch up in your mini leagues, try and get the best rank possible by the end of the season. Let's get right to it then, and the first, and probably one of the more obvious ones, would be Ryan Nuri. Now, I think the one issue with him that I'm just going to come out with straight away is that he went off with a bit of a knock in the most recent game week. So this one comes with an asterisk. However, if he's past fit, which I think there's a decent chance he will be, his fixtures between now and game week 35 are absolutely fantastic, and the guy has been playing out of his skin recently. So if we start off with the fixtures first, because I think that paints a bit of a picture. Yes, game week 33 is fantastic, away at Nottingham Forest, but game week 34 is obviously going to be the low-hanging fruit. Now, if you're on a free hit 34, I still think he's a player that you can be interested in, despite the fact that obviously he doubles in game week 34, and you could probably just get to him for free without a transfer because you're on a free hit anyway. Now, putting that to one side, the fixtures either side of 34, so 33 against Forest and 35 against Luton, are both absolutely fantastic in their own right. So if you're like me and you're on a free hit strategy for game week 34, I wouldn't just put him to one side because you're free hitting that game week. I think the fixtures either side are fantastic and definitely good enough that you could be considering him if he's past fit. So on to why he's such a good asset at the moment. And it's kind of been a new phenomenon, but Ryan Nuri has been playing out of position as pretty much a winger on either side of the striker in the recent few weeks, almost a bit like Gareth Bale when he first burst onto the scene at Tottenham and started being played out of position on the left-hand side. Now, with Nuri, I'm not expecting Gareth Bale style returns, explosive returns from him like that every single week. But if he's past fit and he keeps playing in that role, he's found himself in some incredible attacking opportunities in recent game weeks, and his data has started to really improve week on week. Obviously, got the assist in the most recent game week, got the goal the week before, and he's played really well. So I don't see any reason why O'Neill would drop him back to a more subdued role, considering how potent he's been. So with the fixtures, yes, if you're wildcarding in 35, he's probably going to be obvious if he's past fit, because Forest and then the double is fantastic. But even if you're on a free hit 34 strategy, the fixtures either side are still fantastic as well. So if he's past fit, I think he's a great differential, still under 10% at just 6.7%. And because of the flag on him at the moment, that should remain fairly low going into game week 33. So keep your ear to the ground. Check to see if he's past fit, and if he is, pick him up quickly and you've got yourself a very high upside explosive differential for not just game week 33, not game week 34, but also 35 as well. So the highest ownership player I want to talk about today is still, in my belief, relatively differential, and that's because the 2 Liverpool attackers that a lot of people own are Darwin and Salah. Diaz has been sneaking under the radar, but he is coming onto some people's radars recently. He's definitely in consideration for a few. And if you're not already thinking about him, I wanted to use this section to highlight just how good he's been recently and why you should maybe reconsider your position on him if you're naturally not that tempted by him. So obviously still relatively differential, under 12% ownership. The price is still also very, very appealing. 7.6 million, almost half the price of Salah. Okay, not quite, but he's in that mid-price bracket. He's very affordable, and you can downgrade any of those mid-price midfielders to get to him pretty easily. The fixtures ahead are looking good. Obviously, this game week is a good on-ramp against Crystal Palace at home. And then obviously we've got the double game week in 34. Less appealing if you're on a free hit that week, of course, but because the fixtures either side are still pretty decent, if you are on a free hit, then he could still be of value to you. Now, if you're not on a free hit, obviously he becomes one of the better picks for this week, because you're probably looking at wildcarding out of it in 35 in a lot of cases. And if you're not, it's still good fixtures between now and game week 37, so you can hold him longer term too. Now, of course, if you're dead ending in game week 35, you've got the double and you've got a good single game week this week as well. So there aren't really a lot of things going against Luis Diaz. Now, naturally, a lot of people might contest that, okay, maybe he's not that nailed, maybe he's not got the attacking upside. But in recent weeks, I would again probably revert you back to the data and revert you back to what has been going on. He's actually started the last 10 game weeks in FPL, and in that time, he's got 9 attacking returns. So that's almost a return a game, and he's been consistently starting. And not only that, but he's been getting 80 plus minutes in nearly all of those matches as well. So Klopp seems to have determined what his favourite front three is. And yes, there will probably be a rest at some point for one or two of them. We can't really mitigate for that, and that will occur to pretty much any side between now and the end of the season. But as they come, he's about as nailed as you can get a Liverpool asset to be at this moment in time. And the data is also pretty decent. Okay, it's not quite on the same level as Darwin or Salah, but 0.59 XGI per 90 is still pretty good, and he's been getting the attacking returns recently as well. Those of you who have already bought him in previously can probably vouch for how good he's been and how good a value for money pick he has been in recent game weeks. And he's certainly a player that I've got my eye on, especially on a free hit in 34, because that's the strategy I'm on. But even if I wasn't, I'd still be considering him looking at game week 33 and 35 and 36, all as a combination. These are all teams that could easily concede to Liverpool plenty of goals, and Luis Diaz seems to be at the heart of what they're doing, getting into much more central areas than he was earlier on in the season, and joining in with the very pivotal moments of the build-up play and getting into those goal-scoring opportunities. He's a player I've got my eye on, and at good value as well. I really do like him. Okay, so since I had the highest ownership player as the second pick, I'm going to go with the lowest one on the radar today, and that is Michael Olise. Now, again, he's been off of all of our radars for a while now, and the reason being is because he's been injured. And yes, he's an injury-prone player. He seems to keep getting those setbacks, but when he is fit and when he is firing, he is fantastic to watch. He passes the eye test with flying colours, and the data is also incredible, especially for a midfielder. 0.7 XGI per 90 is fantastic, especially when you look at his value at just 5.6 million. You're not going to find many players in the game that are that cheap with that sort of data. The key is with Olise, timing. If we can get him when he's fit, he could be the key to unlock a lot of other things in our side because he is cheap. He is going to enable more expensive players elsewhere. And he's got the data of someone of an 8 million, maybe even 9 million price point. So if he is fit for the double game week in 34, 2 home fixtures against West Ham and Newcastle, where you'd fancy Palace to score at least a couple of goals and him to play a very significant part in those goals if he is fit, I think he could be a mega differential come game week 34. Okay, it is fair to say that 33 probably isn't the ideal time to buy him with Liverpool away from home, but he is probably the right player to be scouting in game week 33 if he gets decent minutes and he comes out of that Liverpool game unscathed and looks pretty decent in it. He could be a really good pickup in 34, either on a free hit or with a transfer, especially if you're looking at dead ending out of game week 34 and wildcarding in either game week 35 or 36, so you don't have to worry about his fitness for any more than just the double game week. Now, of course, with Olise, he's been rushed back a few times, he gets setbacks, and we can't really guarantee the minutes. That is the major drawback here. And even on a free hit, if I was to buy him for 34 on that free hit, I'd still be pretty nervous about him even completing 90 minutes, let alone getting to the second game in that double game week. So this is a risky maneuver, but if you're chasing rank and you fancy someone cheap with a great attacking upside and mega differential, keep an eye on Olise in game week 33 with an eye on picking him up in game week 34. Now, personally, I cannot believe that I'm talking about Kai Havertz at game week 33 in FPL this season. I really didn't think that he would factor into our thinking at all this season. And he's looked pretty good all season, but not really necessarily from an FPL standpoint. However, in recent game weeks, he's really started to make the most of the opportunities he's been getting, and Arsenal seem to be creating a strategy, creating a style that brings Havertz into goal-scoring opportunities much more regularly than they were doing earlier on this season. And he's playing that kind of false nine role. Actually, probably not even necessarily false nine at this point. That was probably more to do with what he was playing earlier this season. He's actually almost playing a natural centre-forward role at this point in time, and the data is now reflecting that in the recent few game weeks. He's also getting double-digit returns with regular consistency at the moment, and he's looking like a player in the form of his career. 16 attacking returns so far this season. A lot of them have come in the recent 5 or 6 game weeks as well. This is a player that is banging form, decent enough game week in 33, but then of course the double game week in 34 is going to be the real eye-opener for a lot of managers who haven't gone there so far. Now, again, I think this will be an opportunity more for free hitters in game week 34 because a lot of managers will have 3 Arsenal in situ already, and a lot of them will already be Saka and maybe 2 defenders, so double Arsenal defence. And I would not be ripping apart my team to get rid of any of those 3 players to bring in Havertz at this point. But if you've only got 2 Arsenal at the moment and you've got a free transfer spare, or if you're on a free hit in game week 34, I would present to you Kai Havertz as a really good differential option to try and attack the double clean sheet, the double defence for Arsenal, and try and chase the upside there and hope that he goes big in one of those 2 game weeks. There will be risk attached because, again, they come thick and fast, the fixtures, and they do have European football, Champions League to contest with as well. So perhaps there's going to be a rest in store for some of the Arsenal assets in that Wolves away game. But considering how tight the league is at the top of the table at the moment, Arsenal are going to try to avoid rotating their players if at all possible. And Havertz is undoubtedly in their strongest 11 as it stands. Great form, good fixtures, the double game week is enticing, and at under 5% ownership, mega differential as well. Kai Havertz is a player that I'm certainly considering on a free hit, and even if I wasn't, he would be a player that I'd be eyeing up as a manager with only 2 Arsenal players at the moment in situ. So finishing off with 2 players that are in the forward line, and the first of which at just 2.7% ownership is Matheus Cunha. Now again, he's probably gone under the radar because of injury recently, but Gary O'Neill has been working him up to full match fitness in the last 2 game weeks. He got, I think, 19 minutes, followed by 35, so he is building up his minutes. And by the time we get to game week 34, I'd imagine he's probably going to be fit and firing, barring any sort of setback in his fitness. Now, again, it's worth reminding ourselves just how good he was before he got that injury. And 7 attacking returns, including a hat-trick, before he went off injured in that, I think, Brentford game after 19 or 20 minutes. Before that, 7 attacking returns in just 5 game weeks. So he was banging form and he looked like a player, every penny worth the big transfer fee that Wolves paid for him when they brought him in a season or 2 ago. Now, again, the attacking underlying data isn't bad. It's not crazy good, but it's 0.48 XGI per 90. And again, at just 5.5 million, that is really good value for money. Now, obviously, he's going to be especially appealing for any of us on a free hit strategy, but much like a few of the other picks that I've mentioned today, I don't think it's a necessity that you have to be on a free hit strategy for Cunha to appeal. Now, of course, if you're looking at dead ending after game week 34, he's fantastic because Nottingham Forest followed by the double game week, both home fixtures, including one of them against Bournemouth at home, I think that's absolutely fine. But again, even if you're playing through, you could probably hold on to him until about game week 36 anyway, when of course they've got that tough fixture against Man City, followed by a non-double game week in what is going to be a very big double game week 37. So you do probably want to get rid of him by that point. But if you've got a couple of free transfers spare and you're looking for a player that's great value for money and enables you to play a 3-5-2 perhaps in other game weeks, then Cunha could be a player of interest. Now, again, free hit 34, you probably don't have to worry about it right now, but if you're looking at a cheap third forward, he could be the key to unlock a lot of other really high upside players in that free hit. So he's a player that I definitely have on my radar, maybe slightly risky in game week 33 because O'Neill is building up his match fitness. Maybe it comes a week too early for a start. But I think certainly by game week 34, he should be fit and firing, barring any setback. And he'll be a player that I will definitely be eyeing up on the free hit at the absolute minimum. So last but not least, I'd like to recommend the player that actually I'm probably most interested in on a personal note from all of the differentials in this video. So maybe I have saved the best for last. And that player is Joao Pedro. At 5.2 million, I think he could be the ultimate differential going into the back 6 game weeks this season. And I don't say that lightly. Now, again, he's been a rotation threat at certain points this season. So that is something I'm monitoring. But recently, until he got injured, he was actually pretty nailed into that Brighton team, starting 7 of the last 8 game weeks in FPL before obviously, unfortunately, getting injured. Now, again, he's come back recently, had 1 start under his belt, and then had, I think, 30 minutes in the most recent fixture. But again, that's quite conceivable that that was just managing his minutes and building up that match fitness ahead of the run-in. Brighton are still going to be trying to challenge for European football, so they've still got plenty to play for at this point. And that double game week, all the way back in game week 37, is going to be something that we're going to want Brighton players for. Now, if I fast forward to that point in time before going on to Joao Pedro in isolation, Newcastle away and Chelsea at home on the ticker doesn't look like the best pairing. However, I would contest that both Newcastle and Chelsea leak a hell of a lot of goals at the moment. And I can certainly see Brighton capitalising on that. Joao Pedro, if I'm bringing it back to him slightly as well, has fantastic underlying data, 0.74 XGI per 90. And as I mentioned earlier on in this video, I think it was with Michael Elise, any player over 0.7 XGI per 90 is going to be fantastic, especially at the price that he's at just 5.2 million. He is extremely cheap, extremely affordable, and I think being overlooked by a lot of people, mainly because of that assumption that he's not going to be nailed for Brighton, alongside the fact that we've maybe forgotten about him a little bit because of the injury. Now, if we are confident that he starts most of these games, I don't think he'll start all of them, but if he starts 5 or 6 out of the remaining 7 games for Brighton, I think he could be fantastic value for money. You don't necessarily have to play him every week either. He could be that brilliant 8th attacker most weeks, and you try and bring him in tactically in the weeks that they have a good fixture. Burnley away from home is a good fixture, of course, and could be an ideal opportunity for you to take a bit of a risk, bring him in early, get him at a low price at just 5.2 million before that potentially starts to skyrocket and other managers clock onto him. And again, if he continues to reliably get that sort of data that he has already gotten so far this season, there are attacking returns on the horizon for Joao Pedro, I'm absolutely sure of it. Most managers on a free hit 34 strategy will probably be looking at the likes of either Jackson or Højlund, and rightfully so, they're both good picks, they're both definitely going to be popular for the run-in with the double game week coming in game week 37, and potentially that other double game week for Jackson if he avoids the ban going into game week 35. But if you are playing a 5 across the midfield and you only want to play 2 strong forwards most game weeks, then you could save yourself the money and bring in Joao Pedro, and that gives you a couple of million over the other 2 to spend elsewhere, maybe on a stronger 5th midfielder, maybe on upgrading one of your defenders as an opportune moment to upgrade for the bench boost in game week 37. I, for example, am looking at Joao Pedro partly because that would help me afford the money to get to Kieran Trippier by game week 37, rather than having someone at 4.3, 4.4 million, like a Branthwaite, for instance. Now, again, not going with a Branthwaite isn't the be-all and end-all and the thing that would push me towards Pedro. But there are other factors as well. He's got good underlying data. He is on penalties. Brighton also get plenty of attacking opportunities. So it all really comes down to whether or not you back him to consistently start between now and the end of the season. And I think at 5.2 million, that could be a risk worth taking. So again, let me know in the comments below what you think of this one. all of these 6 players are differentials for a reason. But again, if you're chasing rank, if you're looking for that extra explosive differential pick to help you rise up the ranks and finish off the season strongly, one of these 6 picks could be the key to unlock a decent finish for you. So let me know in the comments below if you like any of them, if you hated all of them, and if there are any other players that I haven't mentioned today that you'd like to highlight in the comments. That would also be absolutely fantastic.